In a light, esoteric wisdom embarks on Choronzon, the Demon of Dispersions. Today, we venture into the shadowy and enigmatic world of Choronzon, a figure both feared and revered in the annals of Western esotericism. From his obscure beginnings in the Enochian workings of John Dee and Edward Kelly to his cataclysmic encounter with Aleister Crowley in the Algerian desert, Choronzon emerges as the ultimate adversary at the threshold of spiritual transcendence. This exploration will take us deep into the origins of Choronzon, his mythic and psychological resonances, the dramatic events of Crowley's 1909 invocation, and the lasting impact of both the demon and the ritual in modern occult thought. Through this journey, we will see that Choronzon is not merely a character in magical history, but an archetype, an embodiment of chaos, dissolution, and the perilous passage across the abyss. So light your lanterns, steady your will, and prepare to cross into the unknown. The Enochian origins, John Dee, Edward Kelly, and the language of angels, the Elizabethan Renaissance of magic. Our journey begins in the late 1500s, an age of both scientific curiosity and spiritual yearning. Dr. John Dee, a mathematician, astronomer, and advisor to Queen Elizabeth, was a man obsessed with unlocking the secrets of the cosmos. For Dee, mathematics, astrology, and magic were not separate disciplines, but facets of a unified quest for knowledge, a quest he called the search for the language of angels. Dee's partner in this quest was Edward Kelly, a scryer and medium whose gifts in spirit communication were matched by his reputation for fraud and controversy. Together, they embarked on a series of actions, rituals wherein Kelly would gaze into a crystal or a black mirror, while Dee recorded the voices and visions received. The birth of Enochian magic. What emerged from these sessions was the Enochian system, a language, a set of magical tablets, and a cosmology that mapped the spiritual universe as a hierarchy of angels, spirits, and realms. At its heart were the 30 Aethyrs, or Eres, ascending levels of consciousness or spiritual planes, each accessible through a unique call or key. The Enochian language, with its own unique grammar and vocabulary, was received letter by letter, word by word. It was, Dee believed, the true language spoken by angels to Adam before the fall, a language that could command the very fabric of reality. Choronzon. The first appearance within this immense cosmology, Dee and Kelly encountered many spirits, some benevolent, others ambiguous or openly hostile. Among the latter was Choronzon. The spelling Choronzon would come later. In Dee's records, Choronzon is a spirit of chaos and confusion encountered during the opening of the 10th Aether. He is not explicitly called a demon, yet he is marked as a force of obstruction and dissolution, a presence that scatters the mind and sows division. The Enochian texts describe Choronzon as the voice of error, the dweller in the abyss, and the first and deadliest of all the powers of evil. His purpose seems to be to challenge the aspirant who dares to cross the abyss, the great gulf that separates the material world from the supernal realms. Here, the aspirant must face the dispersion of self, the annihilation of the ego, before union with the divine is possible. The abyss and its guardian. The abyss itself is a motif that recurs throughout mystical and esoteric traditions. In the Enochian system, it marks the boundary between the individual self and the infinite. To cross it is to risk madness, ego dissolution, and spiritual ruin, but also to gain the greatest prize, direct experience of the divine. Choronzon, then, is not simply an enemy to be vanquished, but an ordeal to be survived. He is the principle of dispersion, the force that breaks down the illusory boundaries of the self, making possible the final step toward enlightenment. Mythology and symbolism, the archetype of the abyss. Universal patterns, chaos, tricksters, and thresholds. The figure of Choronzon is not unique to Enochian magic. As an archetype, he echoes through the myths and legends of many cultures. Across the world, we find stories of chaotic spirits, trickster gods, and guardians at the borders of reality. Each, in their own way, represents the necessary ordeal of transformation. Chaos in creation myths, and Kuei in Greek mythology, chaos is the primordial void, the shapeless, undifferentiated state from which the ordered cosmos is born. Before the gods, before the world, there is chaos, limitless, formless, and essential. Choronzon's association with the abyss, the void between worlds, draws directly from this motif. To cross the abyss is to face raw chaos, to risk being unmade before being remade. Tricksters and shapeshifters, trickster deities such as Loki, Norse, Hermes, the Greek, and Coyote, Native American, are also relevant. These gods are not evil, but they are agents of disruption, change, and transformation. They confound order, break boundaries, and challenge the hero to adapt or perish. Choronzon, with his shape-shifting, seductive, and mocking ways, is a trickster at the most perilous threshold. The guardian of the threshold. Mythic traditions often depict a guardian at the border between the known and the unknown. Cerberus at the entrance to Hades, the Sphinx at the gates of Thebes, or the angel with the flaming sword at Eden's gate. These beings test the worthiness and resolve of the seeker. Choronzon serves the same purpose. He is the abyss personified, the last barrier before transcendence. Gnosticism and Kabbalah, the abyss as spiritual divide. Gnostic cosmology is filled with hostile archons, rulers of the lower worlds who keep souls trapped in ignorance. The journey to the divine requires passing through their spheres, each a trial of fear and illusion. In Jewish Kabbalah, the tree of life is divided by the abyss, Da'at, a gulf of unknowing that separates the outer, lower spheres from the supernal triad, Kether, Chokmah, Binah. To cross Da'at is to risk falling into the Qlifoth, the shells or husks of impurity, which represent the chaos and evil left over from creation. Choronzon, in Crowley's interpretation, is the personification of the Qlifothic force, the adversary of order and unity, the voice of dispersion and error. Christian demonology, the adversary. Christian traditions recognize a host of demons whose roles are to tempt, deceive, and destroy. Satan, the adversary, is the great tempter and liar. Belial is the spirit of lawlessness and chaos. In the grimoires of medieval magic, the magus must summon, bind, and command these spirits, sometimes wrestling with them physically or spiritually. The story of Christ's temptation in the wilderness or the trials of Saint Anthony are both echoes of this universal ordeal. Before enlightenment, the seeker must face the darkness within and without. Thelema and modern esotericism. Crowley's vision. Aleister Crowley, magus, mystic, and revolutionary. Aleister Crowley, 1875 to 1947, was one of the most influential and controversial occultists of the modern era. A Cambridge-educated poet and mountaineer, he was initiated into the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, and later founded his own magical orders, including the AA and the Ordo Templi Orientis, OTO. Crowley's spiritual system, Thelema, was revealed to him in Cairo in 1904 in a series of communications with an entity named Iwas. The core teaching of Thelema is, "Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will." For Crowley, the highest goal was the discovery and execution of the true will, the unique, divinely ordained path of each soul. The abyss in Thelema. Crowley synthesized Enochian magic, Kabbalah, yoga, and Eastern mysticism into a complex initiatory system. In Thelema, the abyss is the crucial threshold between the adept and the master of the temple. The journey is mapped onto the tree of life, where the abyss separates the lower 7 spheres, the world of human experience, from the supernal triad, the world of the divine. To cross the abyss is to surrender the ego, to become nothing, and to unite with the all. This process is fraught with danger, for the abyss is inhabited by Choronzon, the principle of dispersion, the sum of all fears and illusions that the ego clings to. Choronzon in Crowley's cosmology. For Crowley, Choronzon was not just a demon to be avoided, but a necessary ordeal to be embraced. Only by facing Choronzon, by allowing oneself to be stripped of all illusions, ambitions, and attachments, can one pass into the realm of the masters of the temple. Here, the soul is symbolically married to Babylon, the Scarlet Woman, and becomes a vessel for divine wisdom. Crowley's approach was radical. Instead of banishing or binding Choronzon, he would summon, confront, and ultimately integrate the demon's challenge. The road to Algeria. Crowley and Neuberg begin the working preparation and pilgrimage. By 1909, Crowley was already established as a leading figure in the esoteric revival sweeping Europe. His earlier magical workings, including the reception of the Book of the Law and his experiments with the Golden Dawn, had established his reputation as both a genius and a heretic. In November of that year, Crowley set out with Victor Neuberg, a poet and loyal student, for Algeria. Their stated purpose was to perform a systematic exploration of the remaining ethers, using the Enochian calls received by Dee and Kelly centuries before. But Crowley also had a private ambition: to enact the crossing of the abyss, to confront Choronzon, and to claim the title of Master of the Temple, the desert as ritual space. The choice of the Algerian desert was deliberate. For Crowley, the isolation, austerity, and vastness of the Sahara mirrored the psychological and spiritual state required for such an ordeal. The desert is a place of exile, purification, and revelation, a landscape stripped to essentials, where the boundaries between self and world are blurred. Each day, Crowley and Neuberg would trek into the dunes, set up their magical apparatus, and perform the invocation of an ether. Crowley, using a vermilion-painted Calvary cross with a topaz engraved with a rose of 49 petals, would enter trance and dictate his visions to Neuberg. The process was exhausting, both physically and spiritually, with each vision more apocalyptic and symbolic than the last. Rituals of ascension. The ethers and the quest for mastery. Climbing the ladder of ethers. The Enochian ethers are arranged in a hierarchy, with the 30th, TXX, at the base and the first, LIL, at the summit. Each represents a realm of consciousness, a spiritual station, or a veil to be lifted. Crowley began at the 30th and proceeded upwards working 1 ether per day, except for a single day when he worked 2. The visions experienced during these workings were intensely symbolic, filled with images of destruction, rebirth, and cosmic struggle. Crowley saw himself as both the protagonist and the witness of these dramas, moving ever closer to the threshold of the abyss. The sexual mystery. Ritual with Neuberg. Upon reaching the 15th ether, Crowley experienced an initiation to the magical grade of Master of the Temple. Yet he found the next step, the 14th ether, blocked. After repeated failures, Crowley descended the mount with Neuberg, only to be seized by a sudden inspiration to perform a ritual of sexual magic dedicated to Pan, with Neuberg as his partner. Sexual rites were not unprecedented in esoteric traditions, but Crowley's innovation was to use the act as a means of ego dissolution. By taking the submissive role, Crowley sought to overcome pride, identity, and all that separated him from the infinite. The ritual, conducted within a magic circle inscribed with words of power, was both a breaking and a sanctification. That evening, Crowley succeeded in penetrating the 14th ether, receiving a vision that confirmed what he must do. To attain the status of Master of the Temple, he would have to undergo the complete death of his ego, to unite his spirit with the ocean of infinity, and to cross the abyss guarded by Choronzon. The invocation of Choronzon, the ritual in detail, the magical geometry, circle and triangle. On December 6, 1909, Crowley and Neuberg performed the central ritual of their working. In a secluded valley outside Beau Sada, they constructed a circle of rocks, drew around it a magical circle, and within that, a triangle, the traditional space for the manifestation of spirits in ceremonial magic. The circle is the symbol of protection, eternity, and divine unity. The triangle, set outside the circle, is the geometric locus where the spirit is to be called and constrained. The magician stands within the circle, the summoned being within the triangle. Crowley, however, would break this convention by entering the triangle himself, an act of both daring and spiritual vulnerability. The oath and the roles. Before beginning, Neuberg took an oath to defend the circle against all intrusions, even to the point of attacking Crowley himself, if necessary. Neuberg was armed with a magical knife and charged with the task of recording all manifestations. Crowley began the invocation from a secret place, out of Neuberg's sight and hearing. After the formal invocation, Crowley entered the triangle. To facilitate the materialization of Choronzon, he sacrificed 3 pigeons at the points of the triangle, sprinkling their blood within its bounds and taking care not to let any spill outside, for to do so would risk releasing Choronzon into the world. The Enochian call. Crowley then recited the call of the ether, a powerful formula in the Enochian language, while entering a deep trance. Neuberg, waiting in the circle, was both witness and guardian, prepared for whatever might ensue. Manifestation and ordeal. The battle with Choronzon. Neuberg's account. What followed is one of the most dramatic and controversial episodes in occult history. Neuberg's record describes a sequence of visions, voices, and physical manifestations that tested both men to their limits. First, Neuberg heard a voice, imitating Crowley's, uttering barbarous names and blasphemies. Visions appeared within the triangle, the form of a prostitute Neuberg had known in Paris who attempted to seduce him, an old man, a serpent, and finally, Crowley himself, begging for water. Each was a mask of Choronzon, seeking to tempt or confuse Neuberg into breaking the circle. Neuberg resisted all advances, refusing to engage or be deceived. He demanded that Choronzon declare his nature. The demon responded with defiance, claiming to be the master of the triangle and to have no fear of the pentagram. He offered magical secrets that turned out to be worthless, a trick to mock the aspirant's ambition. When Neuberg invoked Iwas, Choronzon sneered, accusing all dealings with the angel of being a cloak for filthy sorceries. He then declared himself to be dispersion, the principle of disintegration, opposed to all unity. In a rapid, chaotic outpouring, he unleashed a string of blasphemies, overwhelming Neuberg's ability to record. The physical struggle. As Neuberg struggled to keep up with the torrent, Choronzon threw sand onto the magic circle, blurring its outline and weakening its protection. Seizing the moment, Choronzon, in the form of a naked man, leapt into the circle and attacked Neuberg, attempting to tear out his throat with froth-covered fangs. The two wrestled furiously, with Neuberg fighting to force Choronzon back into the triangle and to repair the broken circle. In the chaos, the line between physical and visionary experience blurred. Whether Neuberg was struggling with Crowley possessed by the demon or with an independent entity remains a subject of debate. The vanishing. At last, Neuberg succeeded in forcing Choronzon back into the triangle and re-establishing the circle. The contest continued, with Choronzon threatening Neuberg with all the torments of hell and Neuberg denouncing the demon as a liar. Finally, Choronzon vanished, leaving Crowley alone and exhausted in the circle. Crowley traced the word Babylon in the sand, signifying the end of the ordeal. He and Neuberg built a fire for purification and ritually destroyed the circle and triangle, closing the working. Symbolism, psychology, and spiritual meaning, ritual geometry, and containment. The use of the circle and triangle is deeply symbolic. The circle as divine unity and protection, the triangle as the space of manifestation and containment. By entering the triangle, Crowley made himself the vessel for Choronzon, risking ego dissolution for the sake of spiritual advancement. Blood as boundary. The use of blood, sacrificed pigeons, serves both as an offering to draw the spirit and as a literal boundary. The scrupulous care not to let the blood fall outside the triangle underscores the importance of containment and the risk of unleashing chaos. Temptation and illusion. Choronzon's shifting forms and seductive temptations represent the myriad ways in which the ego resists dissolution. Sexual temptation, appeals to pity, offers of secret knowledge, all are traps that seek to entangle the aspirant in illusion. The death of the ego. The entire ordeal is a ritual enactment of ego death. To become a master of the temple, Crowley had to let go of all sense of self, ambition, and separation. Choronzon is the final test, the force that scatters the self into nothingness. Babylon, the goal. The word Babylon, traced in the sand, signifies the attainment of the final goal. In Thelema, Babylon is the goddess of the abyss, the Scarlet Woman, who receives the blood of the saints and grants union with the divine. To pass through Choronzon is to enter the embrace of Babylon. Legacy and interpretations. Choronzon. In modern occult thought, the aftermath, the story of the Choronzon working did not end with the ritual. Both Crowley and Neuberg were profoundly affected. Some claimed permanently changed. Friends and associates of Crowley suggested that the ordeal damaged him, even that he was possessed by Choronzon. for the rest of his life. Objective or visionary? Debate rages among scholars and occultists. Was the manifestation of Choronzon a literal event, a shared hallucination, a psychological crisis, or a visionary state induced by ritual and exhaustion? Some have speculated about the role of drugs, suggestion, or even ectoplasm. What is certain is that both Crowley and Neuberg experienced the event as real and transformative. Choronzon as archetype. For modern magicians, Choronzon is not merely a historical curiosity, but a living symbol of the ordeal that awaits every seeker. He is invoked, or banished, in rituals designed to strip away illusion and prepare the magician for union with the divine. For chaos magicians, Choronzon is the principle of creative destruction, the necessary breaking of forms before new ones can arise. Psychological and Jungian readings. From a psychological perspective, Choronzon can be seen as a personification of the shadow self, the repressed fears, desires, and contradictions that must be integrated for wholeness. The wrestling match with Choronzon is a mythic dramatization of the struggle to overcome narcissism, pride, and attachment to self. Thelema and beyond within. Thelema, the working with Choronzon, is a template for the crossing of the abyss, a rite of passage for those who would become masters of the temple. Crowley's account, in The Vision and the Voice, remains required reading for initiates. Choronzon in popular culture and modern magic. Literature, art, and media. Choronzon has appeared in the works of writers such as Alan Moore, Grant Morrison, and Neil Gaiman. In the Sandman comics, for example, Choronzon is portrayed as a cunning and dangerous demon, embodying the power of words and illusion. Occult-themed films and novels often allude to Choronzon as the ultimate adversary, a force of chaos and dissolution. Ritual and practice. Rituals invoking or banishing Choronzon are found in modern magical orders, chaos magic, and solitary practice. These workings are approached with caution, for to invoke Choronzon is to invite the most profound crisis of self. Some magicians report experiences of terror, confusion, and rebirth. Others warn of the dangers of obsession and madness. Internet and subculture. In the age of the internet, Choronzon has become a meme, an avatar of chaos, a symbol for hackers, artists, and those who seek to break boundaries. Websites, forums, and digital grimoires proliferate with invocations, warnings, and debates over who or what Choronzon really is. Conclusion. The gatekeeper of the abyss, Choronzon, stands as one of the most evocative and challenging figures in esoteric thought. Whether encountered as a demon, an archetype, or a psychological ordeal, he is the threshold that must be crossed by anyone seeking to move beyond the limitations of the self. Crowley's encounter with Choronzon in the Algerian desert is the archetype of the ordeal, a confrontation with chaos, a wrestling with the shadow, a dissolution of all that is false. Through this ordeal, the seeker is purified, emptied, and made ready for union with the infinite. The story of Choronzon is both a warning and an invitation. To seek the heights of spiritual attainment is to risk everything, to face the abyss, to lose oneself, and to be reborn. In the end, Choronzon is not the enemy, but the necessary gatekeeper at the edge of the divine. Thank you for joining us on Inner Light, Esoteric Wisdom, for this deep exploration into the mystery of Choronzon. If you found this journey illuminating, don't forget to subscribe and share this episode with fellow seekers. Your support helps us continue to shed light on the shadows and bring wisdom to all who walk the path.